Where does Deltarune take place in the Undertale timeline? Some say that it's not actually a part of the Undertale timeline at all, and that it's simply just an AU where whatever events happen here won't directly affect Undertale to any capacity. But I'm going to have to disagree, and hold on tight for this mini Deltarune theory, the Timeline Theory. Make sure to subscribe and like. Enjoy the video. Undertale on its own is a unique experience, and knowledge of Deltarune is not required to play this game. However, with Deltarune slowly rolling out chapters, many people want to know where this actually takes place in the timeline. Is Deltarune a sequel or is it a prequel? And to that answer, it's actually an AU. There are many unofficial AUs to Undertale, even prior to the release of Deltarune Chapter 1 with the fan games. A good example would be Undertale Don't Forget, which I promise I'll come back to, by the way. These fan games take place in AUs where the lore of Undertale is twisted in its own special way to allow people's own interpretation of the existing lore. Of course, these AUs aren't actually canon, but the concept of AUs are actually canon. There's one piece of dialogue from Alphys in Undertale where she flat out confirms it. If you say don't know in the Mettaton Quiz Show, Alphys will literally say that she's done research on the matter and says that alternate universes do exist. Deltarune takes place inside of a world where the human and monster war didn't happen, thus resulting in the first official canon AU of Undertale, Deltarune. But there's some things that have puzzled me to a great extent. At the beginning of Deltarune, it tells you that this game is strictly meant for players who have in fact played Undertale. So far in the Deltarune story, you don't really need knowledge of Undertale just yet. The only thing you really need to know from Undertale is every character's unique personality, and of course their character development to go along with it. My sister actually played Deltarune first on her Switch before playing Undertale, because it was free, and at the time she was just a kid and had no money at all. But she actually enjoyed it. So if Undertale's knowledge isn't required, why is this message here in the first place? Well, because sometime in the future, this knowledge is going to be required. Let's go back to the question that I asked earlier at the start of this video. Is Deltarune a sequel or a prequel? I argue that it's an alternate universe, but the story of Deltarune may actually be important to Undertale lore later on. Looking back at Gerson's dialogue in Undertale, they mentioned how the symbol behind them, called the Deltarune, is very important to the history of the monsters from Undertale. But yet, amazingly, nobody actually seems to recall why that symbol has history to it other than just speculation from the citizens of the underground. So if that symbol has history to the monsters of Undertale, and that symbol represents Deltarune, then it makes sense that Deltarune is a prequel to Undertale. However, even with that evidence, that's likely not the case. At the end of Deltarune Chapter 1, you can make decisions and interact with characters about your experiences from Undertale. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into this territory, or else I'll just end up talking about soul theory again. But if you can ask questions to the people in Deltarune about the events that happen in Undertale, it makes sense that Deltarune is a sequel. In fact, that explains why this message telling you to play Undertale now makes sense, but again, I'm not too convinced that Deltarune is a sequel either. What if Deltarune is both a prequel and a sequel to Undertale? Now, the reason I'm making that connection is firstly based on the evidence I already concluded, such as Gerson's dialogue and how you can ask about stuff that happened in Undertale. But I'm also basing this on my other theories that I already made, such as the night theory, the color theory, and most importantly, soul theory. So why not go out and take a look at my Undertale theory playlist, especially soul theory, because something might be coming up about that soon.